So are you actually hyped for Top Gun?
After I saw the reviews, yeah. I like Tom Cruise a lot, actually. And just like see them actually dip into the bag of nostalgia and pull something out and make something good for once. I'm stoked because usually it's just like garbage.
There's not very many like sequels 10 plus years later that are actually decent.
Yeah.
Like you got Fury Road and Blade Runner. That about it? Unless you count The Force Awakens.
No.
So it's technically a sequel. It's not going to be like a remake, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I finally watched Tron Legacy. That was okay.
You said it confused you.
I didn't really understand what the ending meant. Like, I don't know why Jeff Daniels had to sacrifice himself, but... Or not Jeff Daniels, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
The guy who played Thanos?
Yeah. I didn't really get that, but it was really cool to look at.
I don't know why he had to sacrifice himself, too, because I'm like, listen, if you're going to put yourself in harm's way anyways, why don't you just go with your son out that arcade game?
Yeah, you take the risk. I don't, yeah. So I was feeling very pessimistic about just all the sequels coming out this summer. Out of curiosity, looked up the top 100 grossing movies of all time and then tried to pick out movies that haven't had a sequel, spin-off, remake, anything. There are only 10 of them in the top 100.
Oh, damn.
So they've all been...
either a sequel, spin-off, remake, some continuation.
And there's a reason for that.
There are only 10 that have not been touched.
And they
you think you can guess any of them?
No.
You gonna try?
Max first.
Wait, 100 best like movies of all time?
100 highest grossing.
Gone with the Wind, right?
Nope.
What?
Wasn't highest grossing.
What?
Not the top 100.
Is this adjusted for inflation?
No, it's not. Should I do that?
Probably. That would make sense.
I gotta redo this whole thing. Not adjusted for inflation. There were 10 of them total out of 100 movies. The highest one, number 6 overall, all time, Titanic.
Oh my gosh, dude.
A lot of true stories on the list. That's like the only way you can make money and not be a sequel or something else.
Avatar.
It's gotta be a true story. That's getting a sequel in December.
But
that's getting like 20 sequels.
Yeah, they're filming like 2 or 3 of them.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's off the list.
Never mind.
So the next one, got to skip all the way down to 24. E.T. I think Spielberg was like super adamant after the Jaws sequels, like never again without my permission.
But can't we just count Stranger Things as a sequel to E.T.?
You
Shut
can.
the fuck up.
Basically. I was going to say the same thing about Firestarter. I was going to watch that. I was like, well, I guess they kind of already did that, didn't they?
Do you hate Stranger Things?
No,
right,
I like
good.
that show. It's a fun show.
The characters make it. I mean, they borrow a lot of the plot points, but like...
The Upside Down is such a cool concept, though.
Yeah, the Black Lodge?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it because the Black Lodge was one of my favorite parts about Twin Peaks, and they didn't like explore the inside of enough. Where like in Stranger Things, you get to see the inside the Upside Down a lot more, and I find that very interesting. What's the next one?
You got to skip all the way down to number 48. So top 50, we've only got 3 so far. Passion of the Christ. Not a lot of sequel potential there.
The second coming,
Easter Sunday.
Okay, number 4, Pixar movie, Inside Out. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets a spin-off at some point.
That's a super good one.
Okay, the next one, American Sniper, Bradley Cooper, Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
Yep.
Big, easy sell for conservative America.
The
6th one, number 61. It's another animated one. I feel like this one's going to get a sequel at some point. Zootopia.
That's like
big
kids movie.
Yeah, that's a matter of time. That's going to happen.
Like 6 of those.
When did that come out?
Maybe I'm thinking of Madagascar.
Yeah, that's different. Zootopia's got Jason Bateman.
It's not all the same thing?
Nope, different.
2016, so they're kind of past their point of like cashing in on it at its prime, but maybe they're doing like a James Cameron thing.
Yeah.
John Simmons in it? Or J.K. Simmons?
Yeah, J.K. Simmons I think's in it.
Is his name John?
I could have made that up. I fucked up Biff Whiff's name on the fucking show.
Jonathan Kimball.
I was right.
There you go.
I didn't know that though.
Is that John? Is that my buddy?
Jonathan Kimball.
Because I call him by his fucking legal name.
All right, number 70, Forrest Gump.
Of course.
That?
Then we go all the way down to 95 for number 8.
Give us a hint? Give us a hint.
These last 3 are all like movies our lifetime. One of them is big twist ending. Actually, there's 2 kind of twisty, ambiguous endings.
Sixth Sense.
That's number 8. Yep.
Okay.
Nice, Max.
95 all time. Sixth Sense. Got another Pixar movie.
With a twist at the end?
No. Different. That's a different one.
Non-twist Pixar movie.
Non-twist Pixar. Let me think.
Pixar used to have like a no sequels policy for a minute, and then they just went hard with the Cars and Monsters University and
Toy Story.
Floodgates opened up. Yeah, I guess Toy Story 2 was like their third movie, so it wasn't that hard a policy, but Up.
Oh,
Up
right.
was a good one.
People loved Up.
And then 98, just barely under the wire. I don't know how to tell you without telling you. It's definitely like one of your favorite movies.
Inception?
Yep.
I was going to guess it on the
98.
last one because it was Pixar. I was going to guess Inception when you said Twist.
You thought for sure there was going to be a sequel, like right after you saw it, didn't you?
Probably. I think I just wanted it really fucking bad.
Do you think there's any chance?
No, because no one's...
He won't do that.
Yeah, I don't think you would.
He won't give anybody what they want.
Tenet is his sequel to Inception.
Yeah.
The closest thing we'll get to
Basically,
it.
yeah.
It is.
Reimagining. Did you grow up with Top Gun? I'm surprised to hear you like excited about it. I figured that would be something that like you missed out on and you're like, why do people like this?
I told you I bought the Maverick outfit for
The
Halloween one
costume?
year.
So that's
And
your
I've worn it
sentimental
like
attachment?
5 years straight because I didn't want to buy another one.
What is the costume? It's like a leather jacket. and-
It's his jumpsuit.
Oh, cool.
And it's got a Maverick name tag and then a Goose name tag that can switch.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's sick.
I'm surprised that like there's this much excitement for it though, because I don't know. I watched it for the first time like 2 years ago, and I didn't get the hype at all.
That's way too late in your
Yeah.
life to watch
I
it.
think so.
Yeah, you gotta be like 6.
Right. Well, we talked a lot about like these weird 80s nostalgia movies that seem to have this cult following. It's like, really? Like Karate Kid isn't that good. Why do I care?
Yeah.
I feel that way about Top Gun a little bit. I think it's going to be interesting to see like metrics on this weekend for Memorial Day weekend. Is Top Gun and Bob's Burgers going to win out, or is it going to be Stranger Things and Obi-Wan Kenobi? Because I feel like I'm way more excited about the streaming options at this point.
Are you?
Dude.
Are you more into Top Gun?
Then what?
Stranger Things?
Nope.
Obi-Wan? No?
Then Obi-Wan, yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're not
don't-
a Star Wars guy.
I tried so hard to get into Star Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe like once I go to Disney, ride the rides, I'll get into it.
I think that's
I don't
something
know.
you got to kind of grow up with, because if you
I
get
think
into that
so.
slower pace, older, you're like,
Yeah. The drastic scene cuts. Dude, interesting though. I'm wondering if like if I ever have kids, I'm gonna like telling him The Dark Knight is an amazing movie.
right,
He's
well,
like,
exactly.
no, Dad, the new Batmans are so much better. Can't even imagine what that's gonna be like.
I thought that, 10 years ago, I was like, man, it's going to be weird that my kids aren't going to grow up with Batman and Ninja Turtles, and now here we are with more Batman and Ninja Turtles. It's like, oh, never mind, they're just going to keep doing it.
Yep. But dude, that some of that 80s shit
Ghostbusters.
just doesn't hold up, man. I
Yeah.
don't. And then some people, those people that grew up with it, are like, oh, they don't make them like they used to.
Right.
Like, you're right, they don't. Thank God. What do you think, Max?
I agree. Like Ghostbusters is one of those things where they were making this dumb Saturday Night Live movie
right.
that's just really just a bunch of like sex jokes and shit, like Bill Murray trying to get laid the whole movie. But like kids didn't notice that and just thought it was cool that these guys were like putting together a ghost fighting team. And so I kind of like, I don't know, I understand that aspect of it a little bit, but I don't understand how that's something that like people have been able to like nerd out about for this long. Like
Yeah.
there's not enough there.
The
With
concept's pretty thin.
Right. Yeah. With stuff like Star Wars, it's like, they've written a story about every character in every shot of A New Hope.
Yeah.
I've read some of that stuff, and that's how I stayed attached to Star Wars during the dark times where we didn't have, in between the originals and the prequels when there just wasn't a lot of Star Wars stuff going on. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine like nerding out on something like that, or even like Back to the Future I thought was like pretty fucking cool when I was a kid. Like that's one that I would be a little more likely to be like interested in at this point. But
I don't know. I just find myself missing like the quality and originality being funneled into movies instead of TV. Like we talked about it a little bit ago, like the whole TV versus movie debate, and like how I can rewatch classic movies like fucking Apocalypse Now and stuff 100 times, but like I don't think I've ever rewatched like a drama series the same way. I don't know. It's a weird pull. Do you
know
find
how
yourself?
long it takes, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's a
think
time
that's why.
dump. Well, and it's so like a really good movie. Like there's so many little lines and like plot points that all circle back. Whereas like you'll get seasons of television where it's just a one-off episode that never goes anywhere, or plot line that never gets picked up again.
Like the Breaking Bad Fly episode.
Yeah, it
Yep.
just it doesn't feel as complete to me. I don't know.
it's a bigger commitment to get the whole satisfaction out of it. Or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize how many shows, like when I talk to you guys about this stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm checking out season 2 of whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really like it anymore. Or like recommending shows and being like, yeah, I think I liked it for a couple seasons.
Yeah.
I'm just noticing this pattern of like getting fatigued by TV.
Yeah.
Even though that is still, I watch a lot more TV than movies. Maybe I need to stop doing that because, yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone got so obsessed with making TV shows once stuff like, Breaking Bad was happening. And now we're just like inundated with this shit. And it's too much. And it's too many cases of like the Moon Knight thing where it's like, just make a fucking movie, dude. Like, and they can't because they're already making too many Marvel movies. That's kind of its own thing. But yeah, I think too many things are being made into TV shows and they just need to or do what they do with UK television a lot of the time. It's like a season is like 2-hour-long episodes or something. Like it doesn't, have to fit these traditional conventions anymore.
Yeah.
It feels so disposable. I know we've joked a lot about like, I've been like stingy on diving into shows just because I don't want to commit to something that's not going to stick around or like tail off. Like I want it to be something that I want to invest my time in, but because it feels like, I don't know, even in the time we've started this podcast, there's been like, I started this season, it wasn't that good. I started this, it wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's intentionally being produced to be disposable, to just keep feeding the content stream.
It absolutely is, and that's obvious when you've got statements like the people from Netflix, after shit hit the fan over there, you know what they said? We're going to focus on quality for the content.
Like that wasn't in the equation earlier.
Right. Yeah. Like that's something
that
you
matters.
can just I think that there's enough good stuff on Netflix, good originals now that this is not the case, but there was a period where it was just so evident that they're just like pumping out this like mediocre content and you could watch a show on there and be like, this is a Netflix show.
Right.
It's just like kind of this bland imitation of another show I've seen.
Well, that was the thing. And there's a lot of reports from people who worked at Netflix and they were literally just feeding the algorithm. Like, hey, minority family comedies are doing really well. Let's put one in production.
Right.
Do we have a script? Do we have a concept? Nope. Hire some writers. We need more of them. Like, that's such an ass backwards way to create anything, really. Find a need and then just invent your content afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's also like somewhat of a product of the whole global marketplace where like China has a larger share of the global box office now than America does. So like they're intentionally making movies with less and less dialogue and just big special effects sequences. So there aren't subtitles anymore.
Yep.
That's why there aren't as many comedies, because humor doesn't really translate as well, especially like crude American stuff overseas. It's kind of nutty to see the way just like the raw, naked capitalism is just driving entertainment right now.
Yeah. Another thing you'll notice is the token Asian character that's just included to like appease the Chinese market at this point.
Yeah. Well, even Top Gun, I think they removed the Taiwanese flag from Tom Cruise's jumper suit to make sure it got to screen in China.
Sure. Damn.
It's just weird little details like that. Or there's the whole rumor about Rise of Skywalker, where they removed a bunch of Force ghosts from the finale because of, I don't know, it was some kind of weird cultural thing where they didn't want it to screen bad overseas, so they had to gut the ending of the movie.
No way.
Marvel's starting to get a little bit of heat now with Doctor Strange having an openly gay character that wasn't allowed to show in a lot of overseas markets.
Yeah, that's always like a big sticking point.
No Way Home was reportedly banned for having a scene with the Statue of Liberty. I don't understand what conflict that is.
Huh.
They not
Does
acknowledge...
America ban anything from being shown here?
I don't know, because they have like fucking Faces of Death VHS tapes where like people are getting murdered and bum fights. Like,
we write documentaries that like shit on ourselves, so that's kind of cool at least.
Yeah. For the most part, it's just driven by the market.
But only the big budget stuff, right? Like, there's still people out there with lower budget that are making original things that, like, they're coming up with.
I mean, there are, but they're just, the resources are so scarce that you only get a handful of those every year. Like, I mean, if you look at, like, the summer release schedule, it's all just sequels and franchises. I think we get Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. That's the only, like, and Jordan Peele's got a new movie. Other than that, it's Minions 5, Jurassic Park 6... Thor 4, like
there's too much fucking data they have now. They can just like see everything that you want. Do you remember when Netflix first started doing originals and like they all slapped? Like they did that remake of Hot Wet American Summer.
Oh yeah.
They came out with Stranger Things.
It was like an event every time they had a new series, and now it's just like Yeah, they had a lot of stuff. I mean, House of Cards was really good the first couple seasons.
Daredevil.
Orange is the New Black was really popular.
Yeah.
Black Mirror.
They stopped focusing on quality.
Right. Well, they also just like, it feels like they abandoned their formula of, they almost copied the same flaws that Hollywood was doing by just investing in bad franchises and reboots, making Fuller House and spending like crazy money on stuff that's just old, tired ideas when they like basically came into popularity from cheap comedy specials and reruns of sitcoms.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the new Kendrick?
No, I did not yet.
What?
I completely forgot it came out.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Ryan, what'd you think?
That was a really genuine transition.
What'd you think about it?
I don't know. It's more of like a philosophical thing, I guess. Like the content is really good. I don't know. It's a little strange, the shift in like what we're consuming as entertainment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where this is a full-on like therapy session set to music. Is there a chorus on the album? Like, it's not really that focused on music. Like, he even like says in the lyrics, like, I'm not in the music business, I've been in the human business. Like, he's all about basically storytelling, which is really cool and like pushes the boundaries of what hip-hop, what music can be as a listening experience. But I don't know, it's really strange as a consumer, I guess. I think I brought this up offline, that Gerard Carmichael, a stand-up special. And yeah, it's like a HBO stand-up comedy special, but the entire thing is just like him sitting in a folding chair talking about his experience of coming out to his family and like dealing with that trauma and the repression of who he's been for 30 years. And it's just odd to see it conveyed and communicated in such a public fashion to where like, are we just going to get to the point where we're just feeding off all these people's problems constantly? Like, there's been a little bit of underlying that in art and music anyways, but like this is just so out front. I don't know. It makes me feel a little odd about it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I get that.
I guess I don't view it as like feeding off people's problems. Maybe that is how people are consuming it, or
right. I mean, that's very stripped down. Like, I don't think he's not selling it like that or anything.
Yeah. No, I think it's more, I don't know. I always appreciate honesty in art.
Yeah.
That's why, like, as problematic as they are, people like Dan Harmon, and you guys won't know who Kaveh Zahedi is, but if you look up Kaveh Zahedi or the show about the show on YouTube, he's a very strange person, very strange outlook on life, radical honesty. But yeah, I've always appreciated that, and I think there's something to take away from like figuring out how to empathize with other people that are being open in that way. And like, that was kind of how I went about listening to the Kendrick album. There's definitely stuff on there that's like difficult and intentionally difficult, I think. But I guess I don't view it as like, I get what you're saying, because it's definitely much more open and direct in that it's just kind of like, it's like he went from therapy to the studio. Like there's almost just no in between. There's not a lot of veneer, but overall, I don't view that as something that's radically different in art, in society.
Right.
And it kind of reminds me of like, I haven't watched this yet, but there's that new George Carlin documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy had a lot of like pretty great ideas early on. And we would call him like a stand-up comedian, right?
Right.
Which is like, at this point, an art form that a lot of people are questioning the merits of altogether.
Yeah.
So like, who are these people at the end of the day, like George Carlin and Kendrick Lamar? Are we having trouble with it because we're labeling them in the wrong way? You know, a lot of people will say that like comedians are the modern day philosophers, which is kind of a dumb thing to say, but like,
right.
You kind of get it though. I think there's a place for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe it's like, it's difficult to grapple with when it's like the number one hip hop artist. Like, I don't know if that's, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. He even like kind of addresses that directly, where he's like, you know, I choose me. I'm not going to sit here and make a bunch of NBA playoff bumper music like I did on my last record. I'm going to, you know, work through my own stuff. I'm not your savior. I don't want to be, you know, the Dave Chappelle voice of a generation guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I also like, you know, I commend him for humanizing, bettering yourself and all the stuff that he's doing with this record. I love everything he's saying. I don't know if I'm like super enthusiastic about how. That's like the style versus substance thing where I'm at. Okay. Where like,
so it's not entertaining to you.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like,
I get that
love
too.
The message. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too. There's songs that I don't want to listen to again.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one where he's dropping F-bombs all over the place. I'm not going to listen to that song again because I just didn't really enjoy that. And the one where he's like, it's actually he featured an actor.
The fight? Taylor Page? Yeah.
From, what's the movie that we watched? Zola?
Oh, yeah, that was her.
Didn't she play Zola?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought that name sounded familiar. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. So, that's another one that's just like kind of rough to listen to. Like it's almost like performance art or something.
Yeah.
There's a number of those on the album. I listened to it again today and was like, even with that goal in mind, I think you could have cut at least 3 of these.
Yeah.
If you are listening to it, usually when I'm listening to music, it's when I'm like going on a walk or a run or something.
Yeah.
And when it gets to these points where it's like, very, very mellow, just kind of like spoken word and piano and stuff. Yeah, there's like a good place for that stuff, but there's a ton of it on this record. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're trying to go into it like having a decent number of like bangers or whatever we call them, you might be a little disappointed. I totally get that. I feel the same way, I think.
And he's kind of like straddled that line pretty much every mainstream album he's put out where like, there's a narrative going all the way through Good Kid, Mad City, but it's also got the style of a traditional hip hop record.
For sure.
Pimp a Butterfly is much more narratively driven.
Uh-huh.
And then Damn is like all style. And this feels like it's just all substance. Like he's kind of teetering back and forth. And I think Good Kid, Mad City was like probably my favorite happy medium of all his stuff, where even I think Pimp a Butterfly is a little too much for me even sometimes.
That's the perfect record.
I know
me.
Everybody loves that one.
I don't know, I love that one. I love Damn too.
I
love
Damn's
all of his
so
albums.
fun. It's great.
I mean, I would probably put, as far as like down the road stuff I'm gonna come back to, like it's gonna be To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn. And it'll be some songs off of this, but even that is like it's this weird thing where like the album is this ongoing experience, and just like plucking stuff out of it even just feels kind of strange.
It's almost like listening to like a podcast or something that isn't even music. Like it's it's so strange. Like you are just
I wouldn't go I get you. I think we're on different levels of that. But I'm closer to where you're at than what I thought at the beginning of this conversation.
I mean, it's bold. Like I think it makes a really strong statement, pushes a lot of boundaries, but I think this is probably the least revisitable record he's put out.
It's interesting. I don't know. When he does stuff like this and people are still like, so who's the best rapper? K-Dot or J. Cole or Drake?
Right.
I'm just like, get those fucking guys out of here,
he's
dude.
Not even,
like, and that's where I think it's becomes this territory of like, I mean, maybe this isn't really a hip hop album or like a hip hop artist. Maybe we need to measure it differently. Because both those guys, I think, make cool music.
No.
Not trying to trash them.
I think that's what elevates him into that conversation of like you said, like a modern day philosopher. He's such a good communicator, and he's such a gifted storyteller that it doesn't feel like something you're going to turn on Hot 107.9 and hear. Ben?
I haven't listened. I can't say anything.
You brought up a good subject, though. Do you want to get into it, or you're watching the playoffs on your phone already? You ready to go?
Oh, I will.
What subject?
I just want to say at the end, though, real quick, the song he released before the album, The Heart Part 5.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's better than any of the record, honestly. Watch the video.
I heard he does a bunch of deep fakes.
He does a bunch of deep fake. Yeah. That experience of watching that video was
a deep fake.
Like, not to trash the album, but that was a better experience.
Is he in bed with Kanye, Kim, Taylor Swift?
No, it's not that.
He deepfakes as Kanye in the video, I think.
Yeah, Will Smith, O.J. Simpson. I saw like screenshots of it, but I didn't listen to it.
Problematic people only?
All black icons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nipsey Hussle.
What I was going to ask you, Ben, you want to get into the Applebees of music?
Yeah.
Who's your...
Who'd I say? I already told you.
Who's your nomination for who you think the Applebees of music is?
Let me go through our text thread.
I think first we need to like explain
the game.
No, I think we should explain individually what that means to us, because I think, like, to me, Applebee's is like a compromise on behalf of like probably your grandparents or something, and something that no one really enjoys all that much at all.
generic.
I had the
Just
complete opposite of that.
how to please the most amount of people with the least amount of characteristics.
Something that you think everyone else around is enjoying more than you,
Yeah.
but they're really not.
Who's your submission, Ben?
I said, okay, so my Applebee's music is more like something that like everybody likes, something that's acceptable for everybody. It's gonna be on in like every car. It's not everybody's favorite thing, but it's like popular, safe. Anyways, what the fuck did I say? I think I said like Daughtry reminded me
Daughtry would have been good back in
of
the day.
yeah, back in the day they were like the Applebees because it was like on fucking TV shows and soccer moms' cars. Like dads would think they're hard listening to Daughtry.
What's Daughtry?
What?
Chris Daughtry?
Chris
American
Daughtry?
Idol.
Oh, I don't know.
He
I
was
never
like-
watched that show.
What was that? He dropped out in like season 5 and just started his own band. It was like Daughtry. That's the name of the band.
It was
It's
like
me.
rock, but
Yeah.
it was like
It's not over.
but like pop and
Yeah,
I can't believe you didn't know Daughtry, dude.
I'd probably know it if I heard it.
he had
going home.
he had a big like 2007, and then that was about it.
I'd say like
going home.
with Jason Mraz is what I came up with.
Jason Mraz is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
also got to be like
You
Applebee's.
guys
Like
remember that Jason Mraz song?
you have
The
way
ones-
too much
yep.
shit on your menu, but you're not good at any of it.
Ooh.
That's Applebee's.
Ooh.
So for that, I would say maybe
It's perfect.
Bruno Mars.
Yeah, yep, that's what you said in the text to me.
Yep. Maybe Miley Cyrus with a little bit of that country influence.
Not Hannah Montana, just strictly Miley,
Just
right?
Miley.
Okay,
Yeah.
because Hannah Montana was pretty good. Max?
What?
He said Jason Mraz.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck.
That's what I came up with.
But then we
did.
started talking about other brands, and I was like, well, Taylor Swift is definitely Target. Like that
Yep.
is the definition of who Taylor Swift is. She's
Huh.
she's a Target. Travis Scott is probably McDonald's.
Why?
He's got the Astro. I mean, everybody goes there.
Because he had
Doesn't
a
really
burger
have
back
any
then?
nutritional value. It's cheap and easy. Nobody wants to admit it's good, but it's, you'll eat there. Drake is Olive Garden. He's fake fancy.
Yep.
Kanye's Chick-fil-A. There's good ingredients, but no one wants to admit to it because of their problematic beliefs. Who'd you say? You had one for Taco Bell, didn't you?
Well, I compare Drake to P.F. Chang's because P.F. Chang's tries to be like authentic and it's just not actually Chinese food at all, where Drake like tries to be like a hard ass rapper and he's just like a soccer mom pushing like top 40 musician.
Yeah. P.F. Chang's, Olive Garden. That's the same lane.
Pretty much, yeah. Did I have one for what now?
I thought you had one for Taco Bell, but I can't remember who it was.
Oh fuck, what would be Taco Bell? What you listen to when you're drunk, right?
Yeah, it'd probably be just like cheap hangover music.
And the next day you're like, why the fuck did I listen to that?
Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. Why do I do that every time? All my references are
this is
dated.
too hard to think of on the spot.
I know it
Ryan's
is.
are too good.
I was gonna go with like Kesha or fucking who are those one guys? I'm sexy and I know it, guys.
Oh, LMFAO.
Yeah. I
That's
couldn't
really
think of their
good.
integra-
That's super good.
They seem to reek at Taco Bell.
Yep.
Literally.
Oh yeah. You know those guys like quit because they were like actually mad they got famous?
Really?
They were like did it as a joke. And when I saw people like actually flocking and like them getting big, they were like, there's too many actual good musicians out here that aren't getting notice
Yeah.
and we're like blowing up. He's like, we're done.
That's some serious imposter syndrome.
I know. It was like him and his uncle.
Is it though?
That was LMFAO. It was
Yeah.
a dude and his uncle.
Yeah, it was a dude and his uncle. It was a Red Foo and his uncle. I forget what his name was. Yeah, they're interesting guys.
Yeah, do you follow him? You know a lot about LMFAO.
Dude, I love fucking.
You love Taco Bell.
I would. I do. I had their breakfast today.
All right, you want to do recommendations?
I'll recommend Severance, even though you guys probably already did.
We did. We did a whole
It's
episode
so
without
good.
you. You like it?
That's so good. I think it's kind of scary. I think it's just basically showing us what our works would do if they could.
I already feel like I'm severed. Like that. That show gave me PTSD, where I'm just like, this is too close to home.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
think-
like this person.
I mean, just think of the shit that like they would get away with if they didn't think you'd go and tell on them. That's why it hit close to home for me. It's like how many times like I've known my work wanted to do something that they knew they couldn't because it either like look poorly on them or get bad PR.
That's the only reason they didn't.
Probably. And in the show, they don't have to worry about that.
Right. What do you got, Max?
Elden Ring.
Yeah, I said one of the best things created in your lifetime. You stand by that? You're willing to put that on tape?
Listen, Elden Ring is one of the best video games that'll be made in our lifetime.
Yeah,
I stand by that statement.
What's the objective? I don't even know.
Become the Elden Lord, Ryan.
Okay.
Can you build?
No, you can't
Can you
build
build?
it. It's not a Fortnite.
Ben
If
just
kids
went
are
to
listening to this, it's not a Fortnite. Get out of here. Go to bed.
There aren't any dances associated with the Elden Ring.
I think
How many emotes are there?
there's actually a lot of emotes.
Oh,
Sick.
It's not like all those open world games where they give you a map and there's a bunch of icons on it and it's like, go to the icons and find
Yeah.
the treasure.
dang.
Elden Ring just gives you a map and it's like, go fuck yourself. I don't care what you do.
That sounds so fun.
And it's really fun because you're just like, I don't know. It's like reverse psychology. You want to explore because of that.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I'm going to go old here because I watched a bunch of
Nice.
old movies.
Oh, the Shyamalan. Nice.
No, not that old. An old movie. So I still haven't watched Doctor Strange, but you're a big fan of Sam Raimi. One of his lesser known movies, his first superhero movie before Spider-Man. He did a movie called Darkman in like 1990.
Oh, yeah.
It's got an awesome Danny Elfman score. Liam Neeson plays like the anti-hero. It's an original superhero concept. It's got a lot of cool like nods to RoboCop and Batman 89 and like stuff of that era. So if you're looking for something to fill the Sam Raimi itch, I guess, since he's got Doctor Strange out now and Evil Dead video game, he's got a little month here of new shit coming out, but that's one of his lesser knowns. It's definitely worth checking out. Yeah,
Sounds tight.
that's it.
Did you watch Patriot?
Agatha.
Max, how far did you seriously get in it though?
I'm not that far yet.
Damn it.
All right, so today on the podcast, we have Nate Utesch of Metavari joining us. Wanted to talk to you also a little bit about the album artwork stuff you've been doing with Tension Division and Secretly.
Yeah.
You got to work on a lot of really cool stuff. War on Drugs, Foxygen, Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they're headquartered in Indiana. So just being in proximity to them, and they had an opening. A longtime art director at the label was leaving, and some friends down there were like, oh man, you should think about this, whatever, and hit them up. And I had a job that I loved at the time, working at an agency, kind of had no desire to leave. Like, it's the kind of thing on my mind where it's like, oh man, well, I would regret it forever if I don't at least investigate this. And it just felt like a really good fit. Jumped in and was an art director there for almost 8 years. Did literally hundreds of album packages.
So do you find it more challenging or more rewarding to be in on someone else's identity project and creating?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's hard. It's hard to sometimes to be a musician and then work for musicians, sometimes kind of seeing how the sausage is made in album cycles, that artists that are kind of like inspiring or heroes or whatever the word is. It's like sometimes it can go one way or the other. Either like these people truly are insane and not of this world, and I'm so lucky to be in the middle of it. And other times it's like, do they forget that I'm not a piece of garbage? Because that's kind of how the communication has gone the last couple months, and you just gotta suck it up and make it happen. Because at the end of the day, any package that I'm working on any given time, I am just a pawn in this massive puzzle that it's someone else's baby. It's someone else's everything, and I don't have to be here. They didn't have to ask. I mean, at times at the label, they would get stuck with me as an art director or whatever. But even then, I'm just a piece of the bigger puzzle that's not my thing, and I just have to kind of remember that. It's a weird beast to be a visual artist for musicians and then also be a musician for sure. But it's fun. I feel like I learned a hell of a lot working at a record label.
Has there been like any particular nerd out moments? I mean, being a kid of the 90s, working with AFI and Weezer, you had to be kind of bursting into the teams.
Oh man. Yeah, no kidding. Weezer is insane. Smashing Pumpkins is pretty insane. That maybe is one of the crazier moments. Just being on a call with Billy Corgan and checking yourself halfway through it, like what am I doing here? And it worked out. We were at Tension Division. We worked with him so much. Solo records, 2 Smashing Pumpkins records. So it is working out.
Are there any like white whales out there you're dying to work with?
Oh, that's great. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Warp Records. So and throw a dart at anything in that catalog, and that would just be pretty wild to work with, from, Aphex Twin to Eno. It's all in there.
Gotcha. Are there any records that you love as a musician that you wish, like, man, I wish somebody could have gotten this a better identity or better branding when it came out?
Oh man, surely. That's funny. It's like, you have like favorite album packages, favorite covers, but trying to think of, I might need to come back to that. I can't think of, I mean, you see bad album covers every day.
Maybe just you love as a musician and you're like, man, this album cover doesn't do it justice.
It's funny as like, you know, trends and things loop back around. There was a time when I hated a lot of album covers that I grew up with, and now I just don't like. They feel appropriate all of a sudden, whether it's like nostalgia has gotten just cemented into those things, and now I can't see past the bad design or what. But there are, you know, modern, you know, records coming out now. You'll come across something in a playlist or online and pause for a second at how awful something is, but not to the extent that I remember it. That stuff is like almost so forgettable.
Is there any on the opposite spectrum where you really, really enjoy like the visual identity more than the music even?
Oh man, that's good. I mean, there are, I feel like a lot of times in that whole like synth wave genre, there's a lot of really great art direction, just really awesome hearkening to 70s and 80s airbrush and oil paintings that kind of have this surreal feeling in them. Kavinsky is in the middle of a cycle right now that just has had some unbelievable work, like this weird surreal candy cherry package that's just so fantastic. And I feel like in my personal taste, I'm kind of getting tired of that sound, that Testarossa on the beach, Miami neon synthesizer music. And it's like that tricked me for a second. Like all this stuff came out and I was like, oh my goodness, maybe this record's a little different. And then you hit play on it. It's not different at all. It's the same stuff. And it's kind of bummed me out for a second. Like, I mean, the art made me think that we were going somewhere else here, but we weren't. But the art in that cycle is fantastic. Blanking on the guy's name, the duo, the guy with the beard from Justice had a solo record come out recently. And I don't necessarily love that music, just really dancey Italo disco stuff, which is fine. He does it really well, but it was, again, like the art was just impeccable, and it kind of, you know, tricks you for a second that maybe the music is something else, but it's not, and that's fine.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Metavari for a second here.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you took a pretty big stylistic shift from where you started in 2009 as a 5-piece instrumental post-rock band and gone straight into electronic synth stuff yourself. What's helped guide the band's musical evolution?
Man, I think the simplest reasoning is just kind of my tendencies and my personal taste as a producer, as a composer, have always kind of been injected into the beast that is Metavari. And when there were 5 of us, it kind of reared its head here and there, but overall it was very kind of rocky and had a post-rock kind of really easy to digest. And it was all performed live drums, live guitars, live bass. But as people have left the project and it's kind of evolved more into a solo thing, I've just been able to get a little more selfish with it and kind of let those things come to the front until things have just fallen away. And now it's just fully the things that I want to do with it, which feels so wrong sometimes at how different it is than when we started. But I think the answer is just because as it's become more of my own thing, the things that I love the most about Metavari have become so focused of what the project is, you know, musically.
Did you have any hesitation about maybe I am straying too far? It was always kind of just follow your creative interests.
Yeah, it was this moment when record came out in 2015. That was kind of like the first sharp turn into the synth stuff, or a couple people like, oh man, are you going to bum people out? Are you afraid that you're going to lose fans? And I think it was just like, I don't know that many people are following along to care about, but the amount of people that reacted on both ends of the thing was very encouraging of like, oh, there's a lot more people following along here than I think I realized, which means there's a lot more people excited, and that's fun, and a lot more people very bummed out about it, which wasn't so fun, but in a weird way encouraging. Is like, oh, we have enough of a little thumbprint in this world that there are angry people, and that's cool.
So what inspired you to go back and, you know, revisit, restructure songs from your 2009 debut, Be One of Us and Hear No Noise, or your new record, Soft Continuum, with founding member Ty Brinneman?
So I think it first kind of came up in 2019 because it was the 10-year anniversary of that first full length. And we were thinking, what could we do with it? Selfishly, didn't have any interest to like re-release it because it felt so separated from where we were now. It almost felt like 2 bands. There was this other band called Metavari that did this thing, and then this band called Metavari that was mostly a solo project. But maybe revisiting some of the work felt felt appropriate. And then when Ty got sick and it kind of became clear that maybe the worst was going to happen with him, he and I were like, man, what if we just did something together? If anything, just an exercise between us. If the worst happens and we lose you, I'm weirdly going to have this little relic that we created in this time. And that felt really powerful for us to do together. And immediately was like, okay, well, let's make this the revisiting of Be One of Us. Let's together rewrite every song on the record. And we ended up inviting all the people that had worked on that record to also rewrite either their parts or moments in the part or quick little like tidbits that we could incorporate.
Yeah. And then for those who don't know, Ty Brinneman, founding member of Metavari, played bass throughout, even the transition to your more synthy stuff on Moonless in 2015. Tragically passed away in spring of 2020. But you got to rework some of this stuff with him before.
Yeah. But quickly, the rewriting of it, rather than like sitting down and transposing the work and rewriting the song as you would expect, we don't have good words for it, but what it ended up being was this kind of like emotional memory, emotional recalling of the work without really revisiting it. Like a lot of times we would talk about what we thought a song was like. What are your memories of Twilight over Akaishi, of touring it, of playing it? We played it in Montreal to a sold out crowd, and it was very emotional, very empowering to us. It felt like this cool click in the band where Ty and I were realizing that what Metavari had become was maybe bigger than what we thought. We had sold out a show in Montreal. We're here playing for these people. We're playing that song in particular as being recorded by a production company in Canada. And it was just kind of like, what is happening? What is this? Is this still Metavari? Like, are they confused? Are they here actually to see us? And we were talking about that moment in that song in particular, and then thinking about that, and then we rewrote it without hitting play on the old track. And just, I remember there's a moment in the song where we have these vocal samples, and it kind of always reminded me of this, and let's try to recreate that feeling. And it was a lot of it was like remapping the emotional memory to new music. And that meant that the end product was something that kind of doesn't sound anything like Be One of Us, which is a strange way to rewrite a song. But man, it was an incredible process to do it like that. And Ty came into the studio and we utilized a software called MIDI Bass where he could control hardware with his bass guitar. And he would just kind of work through a bass line as we scroll through patches and manipulate things. And then he'd just loop on something and I would just be his hands over here at the hardware while he was playing the bass, and it just looping through something, getting this weird texture. Sometimes it was more about soundscape and sound design. Sometimes it was very tangible, like bass licks. But we had never written like that, which in one hand is just a little bit devastating that we did that at the end, the last thing that he did. And it was remarkable. And then that's the end. And he and I will never get to write like that again. But because of that, we have this one thing that we did once and wrote together one way, one time for one record. And that's it. I love it and I hate it. But I hate that we won't get to do it again. I love that we did it. Yeah, man, it was a wild, wild way to rewrite a record.
Yeah, it was startling because, at first I listened to it and I was like, this isn't quite what I remember. But once I heard a little bit about your process, I thought that was a really interesting way to translate the songs.
For sure. So bizarre. I'm trying to remember. I think that Cerulean was the only one where we couldn't kind of escape how much we loved the lick that I had written originally for Cerulean. So we came back, transposed it, and I just played it on a different instrument. And we rewrote the song from there. And that's the only one, I think, I might be misremembering, but where you hear something that's like one for one recognizable in Be One of Us.
No, it's really ambitious. And it's really interesting to hear kind of the projects that you've tackled with this. Along with this, you got to rescore the classic Metropolis and the short works of David Lynch. What was writing to complement someone else's visual work like?
I wish I had better words to describe it, but it felt like a turning point for me as a producer in the way I think about the chaos of writing. Because all of a sudden, Metropolis in particular is a silent film. So I'm tasked with potentially filling every square inch of this with audio, which, isn't exactly how to tackle that. But anything I do is going to be in here because there's nothing else to hear. So it can get really Tom and Jerry with it and move it, every little movement, every little blink of an eye can get a little ping and a pop and a whirl, or it's just write a song and let the themes and the scenes kind of dictate when to cut from one to another, which was a really beautiful, chaotic way to do it, because there are a couple songs in the Metropolis score that are just songs. They're kind of verse, chorus, pop songs, for lack of a better word, but they follow the structure of these scenes that are not set to a BPM and, don't line up, 8 bars per phrase or whatever it is. So all of a sudden there's this chaos in it that made some of the structure of that writing really beautiful for me, and has really kind of influenced how I think about structure now, and will at times pull something visual into the process to help me just kind of like blow up what I'm in the middle of, so I don't fall prey to something that's just easy and surface level. It can get too chaotic, and which I'm not opposed to. Really obtuse writing is fun at some level, but at the same time, there's a line between a needle falling between the two that I think is where I want to be, and feels like where Metavari has really arrived. Metropolis in particular helped that, but that was also kind of this moment where the pitching of that record landed us our first international record deal, where all of a sudden we had distribution and records being pressed around the globe. And from there, that same label did Cemetery, and the same label did the David Lynch record. So we kind of found ourselves instantly in this whole other vehicle. Metropolis, I think, will always have a soft spot for that, because it felt like this turning point in the life of the Metavari and my writing where things have just never been the same.
Have you ever thought about doing like a full feature-length score? Is that something that would be on Metavari's bucket list?
Man, it really would. I mean, as long as I can remember wanting to make music, wanting to be in a band, almost more than wanting to be in a band, I wanted to make music for film and have a lot for small project friends, short films. Got to do some commercial work when I worked at an agency where we scored television commercials, which is not the same. Some of that ends up kind of not being your own thing, but it's still just writing for picture is incredible. We are working on a feature-length documentary score right now. It's also a silent film for the most part. It's a lot of drone photography, so it's setting music to this story about how the landscape of Indiana has been affected by humans environmentally for good and bad, and kind of seeing in moving picture the scarring of the earth and the industrialization of specifically the landscape of Indiana. And that's been the first thing that we've done that was kind of not birthed entirely by our own design, someone coming to us and pitching a concept and then working together with director and the filmmaker to write this. And I hope to be done this year. I don't know if the film will be out this year, but yeah.
So who are your Mount Rushmore of film scores? I know we just had Vangelis.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a brutal one. Oh man, it's so funny when you're asked a question that, like, casually talking, you can come up with 30 people, and then like on the spot, it's like, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie. I mean, I love the score for Akira. That has been very influential in my work, the way he uses repetition and percussive instruments in a really cyclical, almost like Steve Reich kind of way, but there's synthesizers in there and weird chanting, and and yet it's still this kind of like leather motorcycle Neo Tokyo thing that just like a wonderful melting pot of sounds. And I mean I'd first seen that movie in high school, and I probably at a time when I hadn't even touched a synthesizer. I don't know if that might be an exaggeration, but it just felt mind-boggling. Clint Mansell's another one. His work with Darren Aronofsky, the soundtrack to Pi that he did, and the music that was on Pi as well, Aphex Twin. Man, that soundtrack, that score felt inhuman to me. I think when I first heard it, it was abrasive and weird, and it was like, it felt incomprehensible to me that a human could create that. It was like beyond good soundtrack. It was, this is just stupid that this exists. that was one of a couple gateways in the next couple years after that movie, discovering like experimental electronic music that wasn't just dance music, which opened up a whole world for me that kind of set me on the path that I'm on now for sure. Tangerine Dream, massive influence for me. I mean, I even love scores from them, like their US score for Legend, which was very kind of like high fantasy, but with synthesizers, which is the center of my heart. If you were to rip me open, there would just be a little stone in there with the words high fantasy and synthesizers written on it. That is all I am at the center of who I am. And that movie just does it so well and so horribly at times, but it's all just perfect. It again is cemented with so much nostalgia that I can't even possibly unbiasedly tell you whether or not that's a good score. It is just a perfect score. Oh my goodness. Who are I'm like looking, do I have soundtracks on my wall that I can just say because I can't think of anything? Again, the synthesizers and high fantasy thing, I'm a huge fan of Enya. She's not done a lot of film scoring, but her first record is kind of based on her score for a documentary series about Ireland, and I've only ever seen pieces of it, but it's incredible. I Drew Newman, composer who's done a lot of stuff for like Nickelodeon and MTV, but specifically Aeon Flux.
Oh yeah.
Aeon Flux is another. I mean, I feel like I'm saying this. I keep saying such and such is a huge influence. Such and such is a huge influence. I guess it's just all. I'm just this giant ball of hyperbole, and it's all an influence. But Aeon Flux is another one where I'm seeing this show that felt a little voyeuristic, is a little too sexy for maybe my eyes at the time. It's liquid television, MTV, whenever it was on Thursday nights, Saturday nights. So it was, who was on liquid television? The Head, The Max. I don't remember if that was Beavis and Butthead or not. I don't think so. And Aeon Flux was just this surreal, dystopian. What was she? A bounty hunter? Just a lot of death, a lot of cleavage and thighs in a cartoon with percussive synthesizer music, and man, it rocked my world. I have a CD. It's like this 3 CD set of odds and ends and scraps from Aeon Flux. The composer, I don't think somehow had the rights to a lot of it, so it was released with a weird name and didn't even mention Aeon Flux, but it's obviously that music. To go back to Soft Continuum, actually, the end of Soft Continuum, the climax to create the ending for it, I really wanted something syncopated, an odd time signature. I wanted to be hard for me and Ty to play and to pull off, and immediately thought of this track in that 3-disc set in the Aeon Flux score. So we brought the CD up. It's not even on Spotify. I cannot find that song by Googling it. It's called something about a dark prison, I think. And basically, it was so good that I'm like, you know what, Ty? I think I want to just copy this. I want to learn this bass line and this syncopated rhythm. I want to just straight up copy it. I want to rip it off and write a song around that and make that the ending to Kings Die Like Other Men. And that's what we did. And the end of that song is the complete ripoff of a track from the Aeon Flux score, I think called Dark Prison, which is so horrible and stupid of me, but I just did it. It was so good. So that's my quick list that I can think of off the top of my head.
Awesome. All right. I did want to ask you about, because I know you're a huge David Lynch fan, and it's been years and I still don't know what to make of season 3 of Twin Peaks. What are your thoughts? As condensed as possible.
I should have known better to prepare an answer for that question. Also, I'll say, out of the gate, I felt a little disappointed because I had a lot. I mean, it's impossible not to have expectations for like, a revisit, like that, especially one that, I try to not use the same words I'm using for everything I talk about, but it's something that was really influential for me. I had a crazy dad that showed me Twin Peaks way too early. I should not have watched it. And it just made me obsessed with Twin Peaks in middle school, a couple years away from it being in real time. I've just had Twin Peaks in my life, my entire life. I love it. I'm so glad my dad is insane and did that to me. So I had a lot of expectations, a lot of things I wanted to see happen in season 3. And I don't think any of it happened, which made me really disappointed for a lot of it. There were episodes, I think episode 8 if that's the Gotta Light episode, that one was off the charts. It was fantastic. Dougie, I don't know what I think about Dougie. I felt very upset at Dougie when I first realized what was happening and you saw it. It felt like Robin Williams starring in a Disney movie for a lot of episodes, and I had a really hard time with it. But I think where I'm at now, without any spoilers, I do love how they capped it off. There's a lot of shows that I love that cannot pull off a series finale, and it's kind of ruined it. My wife is not friends with people if they like Lost because of how upset she is at how Lost ended. So it was like, okay, let's just hope that at least this thing ties up, or does. Like, if you're going to leave me hanging, Lynch famously leaves you hanging, and that's fine. I'm fine with it, but I want to be left hung in a beautiful way. And it did, and it didn't, and it wrapped up, and yet it didn't. And I love how it ended. I'm so glad with how it ended. It almost made me go back and realize that a lot of it was worth it. Was Dougie worth it? I don't know. I got a lot of what I, in the end, needed out of it. I'm so glad that it exists. I'm so glad that it's 300 hours long or whatever the hell that season ended up being. I've often thought about, side note, I have a 4-year-old and I am, like my dad, cannot wait to show him things that he shouldn't be watching, but luckily have the skill set to edit things and create toddler versions of things like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings so that my 4-year-old can watch Star Wars but not see somebody get his hand cut off.
That's awesome.
So I've often thought for my own good, like, what if I were to go back and edit down an 8-hour, a 6-hour version of season 3 that like gives me everything I need? I'm not going to do it. That's insane. That's a little bit blasphemous to a show that I claim a lot of affinity to. So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It, in the end, I can get behind how it ended. I can also, I have a lot of respect for a director that probably said, here's everything the show could be, and I'm going to do none of it. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Props to him. So yeah.
Well, yeah, appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Man, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me so
Soft
much.
Continuum's out June 10th, Joyful Noise. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the record leading up to it?
No, that's it. That's the key points. June 10th, go do it.
All right, well, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.